pretty solid attempt. Pretty solid run. Also the most important line, no real frogs were harmed during the development of this game. And you saw the message pretty well. When we go on to the next game, that's what we're going to do. We're going to hop along now. Alright, I'm just going to take a small walk. That was a good run. That was a good run. I do think it was. Okay. I'm going to run it back and do another one. If I can finish at least one run a day, I feel pretty good. You know, it's like they've all been underestimated whenever I decide to finish them. I'll go another 40 minutes. That's fine by me. We can do that. All right. Once again, another go through of Frogger 2 for the Game Boy Color. And, well, Frogger 2 for the Game Boy Color's got two categories. 80%, which is blisteringly fast nowadays. Very little room for error, although in a marathon setting, you take a few safer routes that make it easier to get through certain parts. In all gems, there's just no concept of safety in certain routes. The safety will come in different ways, though, and I can certainly explain what I mean by that when I'm past the first level. So, well, get this started in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. I'm just going to run through the first two rivers before I start talking about this game. That's why. That is precisely why. So that's not terrible, it could be worse. We lost out on one cycle. And I figure that's where I start talking about, like, cycles. There's cycles for getting through certain paths in any percent, and in certain cases of all gems as well. I got pretty lucky on a few of these in this second level so far. But like the biggest thing about cycling in this category is that certain gem sections have more leeway than others, which is not something that we have a luxury for in any percent. If you die in any percent, 95% of the time, that's the end of the run. I almost thought I was gone in that semi-auto scroller section. And that goes into another very odd property of this game, is that you can sometimes be on a vehicle or an object that kills you when you think that you're not. Oh my goodness, I forgot about these patterns. So I was a little late on level 1-1. You can see the consequences of that right away. Bit of a backup. So in all gems, you can grab that checkpoint. So if things went seriously wrong, we're okay in that aspect, and we can pretty much make it back to that level. Oh, that was like perfectly metronomic. Almost, at least for my standards, it was. And that does bring me into another aspect of Frogger 2 for the Game Boy Color. You'll notice, like, I go for a very specific set of, like, you know, rhythms that allow you to travel quickly while still, you know, minimizing the amount of misinputs that you have in the game. So that's another, you know, major factor of this category, is that you are oftentimes, you know, finding yourself, you know, not going as fast as the TAS would, because in the TAS's instance, a lot of the routes that the TAS hits can still be achieved with a slightly slower movement. And in that way, we kind of have the mission of, you know, finding a certain routing that can be safe while still going pretty much essentially the same pace as the TAS. So a slightly slower rhythm. You could go for 16th notes on this 4/4 meter, but instead I go for triplets. And triplets are only a slight bit slower, but they meet like at least 80% of the TAS routes that exist, which is really good in the case of this sort of run. Oh, I totally... Okay. We'll be okay here? Yes, we're fine. Little oddball pattern, just because of how things went out, and I'm gonna have to wait for this one. There was gonna be no way to make it to the finish, so we kind of just have to compromise a little bit. Only a slight bit, and you can see, I mean, that's the consequence of some of the time loss that there was in level 1. Which, out of all the levels in the early game, that's probably one of the most brutal ones. And, I guess while I mention it, each of the spider layer locations, or bat layers, I don't know, whatever they are. Ooh, that was a good backup. Now, because of where we're going in all gems, grabbing the, oh, what is it? The checkpoint in this level just isn't considered safe. So we kind of just have to forego it. And with the amount of lives that we'll collect, if we don't make too many mistakes, we should be pretty secure if things go terribly awry. The key thing is, should be, you know, in all gems, you know, you can find mysterious ways to just completely catapult a run without, you know, fully understanding how you, like, miss input sometimes. So I was kind of playing it super safe there. And that's the first of 3 levels that I like to call, like, either Shadow Tiles or Simon Says, because it kind of feels like a mix of those 2 elements. You know, they're kind of like ghost tiles, akin to that of like Morty's Gym. They're invisible and you have to memorize them. So, fairly simple once you've played the game as long as I have. In my case, I've spent, you know, 2 decades of my life learning this game casually and then from a speedrunning standpoint. So that gives you plenty of time to learn each of the patterns. So it is safe to grab that checkpoint just simply because of how long it takes for everything else to, you know, become available for the first 4 gems. I was kind of playing it safe. You could see, like, on certain gems, I was very purposefully, you know, just, like, kind of running it back and forth. And that's a sort of very safe pattern that helps you to quickly evade each of these fast-moving boulders. Now we're getting to a section, a level that is not too fun in either any percent or all gems. You're going to kind of see that in action. I could go about this two ways. I'm going to take the semi-safe route. The semi-safe route is to kind of just you know, grab two at the bottom, two at the other side, and then two at the top, same sort of deal. It's going from quadrant to quadrant. Okay, I had to think about that for a moment. See, sometimes you'll have, like, areas where your input just doesn't go, and you kind of stand still for, like, a second or two, and you have to sort of be ready for that, so that you don't accidentally jump where you intended to, but weren't actually, so that has always been a factor in some of these levels. And we made it through just fine. And we're gonna introduce the reverse conveyor belt strat. Here it is. It's a pretty cool strat where you are able to go from left to right on the conveyors instead of right to left, which is what the game originally intended to do. Ooh, okay, that was a uncharacteristic flaw. And we're still through just fine. And we're going to be entering the ice caves next. And here we go. This is the beginning of RNG Incarnate. Made the fast cycle, so all's forgiven in the end. And the fish were good. It doesn't often happen. In all gems, it seems to be a lot worse than 90%. The ice caves are probably the most different from all of the worlds on Frogger 2 for the Game Boy Color. Is the sort of rhythm is a lot less prevalent, with the exception of this one. But this is also YOLO 3, so YOLO 3 requires like a combination of just like foreseeing things that you would not normally like be on the lookout for. Like the fish, which will randomly come out at certain times and go in certain directions. You don't always have control over that, so you kind of have to just be ready to sense it in time, otherwise something like that will happen. So, the reason we call it YOLO 3 is you can book it really, really fast, but there are some instances where that's a really bad idea because you'll just get caught by the fish, no matter how you try. No matter how much effort you put in to avoid them. You'll sometimes just get caught in the crossfire, and this is a prime example of that right here. And so, even though I had that many deaths, crazy enough, we could still, you know, bring this back a lot. You might notice certain pauses in this. This was a big example of it. The fish were pretty good for me there. We managed to catch those cycles in time. Alright, now we're going to get to a level that looks very intimidating, but as long as you're on time with each of your hops, it's not too bad. Maybe the last half is where things get a little daunting. But like, in any percent and all gems, this level is pretty forgiving as far as like mistakes go. So unfortunately, we do have to spend a little time waiting. This level is one where you have like one wrong movement and you can be caught on very thin ice, so that's the last thing we want to do here. And we played it safe. Okay, it's been a while since I've been able to make a really safe pattern here. This is a really handy, like, respawn point. And as you can see, the reverse conveyor strat from level 2 prepares us for the next few worlds. Pretty solid handling of that level. And that was a little scary, but we made a pretty good handling of that too, so it ended up being fine. And by spawning myself purposely in the middle like I did there, actually makes it really easy to make it back. And with those quick patterns, we could make a very easy beeline for the finish. Good deal. And then this one's a pretty quick, you know, be ready or, you know, die trying. And that was not ready at all. And in the end, we didn't really lose much on the patterns, just simply because of how crazy this world is. This one's kind of cyclical. We have to go from one side to the other. And, yeah. I've tried to catch that barge every single time, and I failed it every single time. It doesn't seem like it's possible. Not even the task would probably be able to hit that. So we have to wait for a few of them to come out, and then we can catch that one. Ooh, I caught an early cycle. That was really good. So that's going to save a little time here. Very fortunately. As long as I don't screw up this next part. Alright. Yeah, we got the fast cycle too. That's really good. Just quickly make our way around the B. Alright, we're on our way to 4-4. Which is a relatively challenging level, no matter how you go about it. I saw a frog on the high score, which I guess the game will sometimes glitch out for no particular reason. It has a mind of its own. And we were able to quickly make our way over there. Again, one of the rare times you get to enjoy one of the most satisfying sound effects in the entire game, and that is a perfect example of that. I mean, makes it worth going for all the gems in this instance. The designer certainly had that in mind. We got through that level pretty fine. I know it didn't look super fast, but you know, there was a death last time there, and there doesn't seem to be a very good definitive path to get through yet. It's kind of just a sort of be ready with whatever. Oh, it turns out you can make it through that cycle. Okay, well, I guess I learned a thing today. Uh-oh, uh-oh. Well, I missed it anyways, so I guess it doesn't all matter that much? Yeah, no, it didn't matter that much. Which is a shame, but what can you do about it? Errors happen for a reason, and that was like a perfect example of what I mean. And I just have to make adaptations on the fly. You know, you come correct, you get ready for bad stuff to happen, and then you just kind of move on. And that's the big thing about all gems, is that there's plenty of ways to move on from level to level without, you know, getting too flustered. And now we're gonna go crazy strat here. Kind of crazy. It looks a lot crazier. Ooh, okay. I did not prepare for that. Unfortunately, that's going to be some time loss here. Now we have to kind of break our way back here. And now, doesn't look too fast right now, but we still have some room to bring this back a ways. And this next part here gives us some time to think before we really, hit the ground running. And also prepares us mentally for the pressure that is World 5. The mines are some of the most intense worlds, and you just kind of have to be ready. This really gets all the jitters out. And we won't catch the train on time, but we will catch the next one. So we're doing just fine. We're doing just fine, folks. We gold split too. Alright. So, all gems. This one's kind of ridiculous. Like, any percent's really pretty straightforward. With all gems, there are many ways to mess this up. You'll see every possible, combination here. Again, playing it fairly safe with each of these patterns. That was risky. You can actually kind of despawn off the crawlers a little bit, just enough where it will, cost a lot of time. And fortunately, that did not happen to me, which is a good thing. Alright. We're getting to one of the hardest levels in the entire game. This one here is just pure nerves, and it's all about perfection across the board. You have to be ready with certain hops at certain places. This is one of them. So we just kind of have to come up with backup strats. And that was a solid backup. Certainly could have been a lot faster, but we are alive, and that's really what matters in this category. Oh, beautiful. Alright. We got ourselves out of a pretty ugly scenario where we could have lost way more time. But because we avoided a death, we've got some breathing space in these next few levels. And this one, we actually have to purposely do a lot of waiting. There's no real good way to stop the cycles that are happening here. We just kind of have to wait for this first crawler so we can get to that gem. And then we got the next one, which is right here. And these are just, you have to just wait for it to loop back around, and then grab this one right here. The game rewards you with a checkpoint, and plenty of opportunities to get tons of lives. Like, at this point, I'm no longer worried about lives. I'm just worried about finishing the run with a competent pace. I'm actually going to purposely wait out this pattern just a tiny bit. And we got a beautiful pattern here. Yes, that was actually very nice. Alright, one more level. There's a lot that can happen wrong here, so I'm just going to grab this as if it were a marathon. A lot of this is a quick ascent up, and then we have to make our way back down as we grab all these gems at the very top. Oh! So that was not intended, but mildly inconsequential. Alright, we're gonna do a reverse cycle. I did miss it, unfortunately. So that's gonna be a little costly. So now we're gonna have to follow the spider patterns for this one here. Which, you know, you have some breathe room for that. Alright. Now we got some reverses that are pretty chaotic. Alright, that's one. And we're gonna play pretty safe here. Time is coming up real soon. It's not by much, but it's a world record. I'd say I've properly derusted myself. And just under 200 attempts, too, so it's not half bad. 22:48, certainly not bad. Alright, I mean, and that just shows you how much time save there is still available. I made a mistake, a pretty uncharacteristic mistake, with the cycles on level 5. Usually I don't hop off the side, so, I mean, that tells you just how much more there is that can be, you know, saved. It's not an easy category, and I had a pretty good showing of it. So, like, the biggest thing is just the early worlds weren't all the best, and those are the types of errors that we can certainly fix. We're gonna have to look back on the, especially on the second to last level of the ice caves. That one can be improved by a lot. The first two worlds are just nerve-wracking no matter how you go about it. That's just kind of how they work. But yeah, I did a pretty good job derusting this, and I'll give the combination of this and any % runs tomorrow. I mean, it feels right, and man, it feels pretty good. It feels good to be back in this sort of thing. So yeah, I'm gonna try to print screen this. Can we do it? Can we do it? Let's see how it looks. Let's see how it looks tonight. Oh, I didn't even realize I had the no real frogs for her arm during the development of this game. Didn't even see that. That was kind of good timing. Well, I do believe I'm done for tonight. I know it's not long. I didn't give it much time, but yeah, it's pretty good to be back here again. Alright, folks, I'm going to be done for tonight, so yeah. That's it for me. We'll do some more practice a bit tomorrow, but it won't be much because I do have to wake up bright and early. I got the blizzard tomorrow I'm attending, so it's going to be a busy week for me, and a series of busy more weeks. Thanks for watching, and until next time, y'all take it easy. I'll see you later.